Nāgārjuna said that in the Dharma-ending age, there are 5 main obstacles to spiritual practice. We should be aware of these obstacles and remain vigilant to avoid them. The following are the 5 obstacles that Nāgārjuna addressed in the chapter on easy practice of the Discourse on the 10 stages. 1. Heresies engage in superficial virtuous activities, disrupting the missions of Bodhisattvas. The virtuous activities performed by non-Buddhists and the 10 positive actions of the human and heavenly vehicle in Buddhism share similar content. However, their intentions or motivations are completely different. Non-Buddhists engage in virtuous actions to attain rebirth in heaven or obtain health, wealth, and longevity in this life. On the other hand, Buddhist teachers impart the truth of suffering and its cause to lay people, guiding them to aspire for liberation. Lay practitioners engage in the 10 positive actions to accumulate merits for practicing the path to liberation. Therefore, their intentions are different. In the Dharma-ending age, if Buddhist teachers and abbots solely guide lay people to accumulate merits, perform virtuous deeds, and engage in charitable activities without mentioning the truth of suffering and its origin, it may lead worldly people to perceive Buddhism as merely a religion about doing good deeds and accumulating merits. Heresies engage in superficial virtuous activities, disrupting the missions of Bodhisattvas. If Buddhist monastics perform virtuous deeds superficially without generating genuine renunciation and bodhicitta, they may mistakenly believe they are practicing the Bodhisattva path. As a result, lay followers of the Pureland school may also mistakenly believe that doing virtuous deeds and reciting the Buddha's name alone will guarantee rebirth in the Pure Land. Some teachers, to cater to newly converted lay people who crave samsaric blessings, don't impart teachings on the path to liberation. Instead, they only talk about topics such as how to be a good person, how to show filial piety, how to live a happy life, and how to obtain good fortune while avoiding misfortune. While such teachings may provide worldly benefits, they obscure the student's potential to cultivate renunciation. As a result, the students cannot arouse the determination to break free from cyclic existence. This kind of education is quite common today, aimed at enabling people to enjoy samsara better. For instance, saying happy birthday actually means have a happy journey in samsara. Such teachings are appealing because they meet the desires of ordinary beings. Let's refrain from saying happy birthday because it implies enjoy your journey in samsara. While worldly people may not understand this, we should avoid using such phrases. When celebrating birthdays, we can modify the lyrics of the birthday song to I wish you liberation from the cycle of birth and death. I wish you freedom from samsara. By singing this, we can keep renunciation in mind. Monastics can adopt this practice, and perhaps it will become popular over time. As more people learn the Buddha's teachings, the tradition of singing happy birthday might fade away. Nowadays, some lay people have studied Buddhism for many years, but are still confused. They enjoy doing virtuous deeds, giving alms, helping the poor, saving animals, supporting the construction of temples, and making offerings to monastics, but don't cultivate renunciation. Such lay people engage in virtuous actions solely to seek samsaric blessings, without understanding liberation from samsara or practicing the bodhisattva path. If you ask them to practice the 10 positive actions, they will gladly do so. However, if you discuss renunciation with them, they will leave. In the Dharma-ending age, humans generally have poor immunity, making them prone to illness and having shorter lifespans. If we don't devote this fleeting life to liberation from samsara, we will waste it. We should understand that even if one is reborn in heaven after a lifelong practice, one will fall into misery after the heavenly life ends. The 6 perfections and myriad practices of a bodhisattva may seem similar to worldly virtuous activities, and those without bodhicitta cannot distinguish between them. However, when engaging in these activities, a bodhisattva is not pursuing a better life in samsara, but guiding sentient beings to break free from samsara and ultimately attain Buddhahood. The worst harm in today's Buddhist society is that Buddhist heresies lead many people who could have practiced the Buddha's teachings and renounced samsara to pursue virtuous deeds solely for the sake of heavenly rebirth. That's why Nāgārjuna listed heresies engage in superficial virtuous activities, disrupting the missions of Bodhisattvas, as the first of the 5 obstacles. Therefore, I urge fellow practitioners and teachers to remain vigilant and never forget the Buddha's original intent. What's worse, some entrepreneur training programs emerge in today's society. Under the guise of education and virtue, these so-called mentors fuel their students' desire for success and teach them to pursue wealth by any means necessary. They tell entrepreneurs that performing good deeds is a means to achieve success. After attending such programs, these entrepreneurs hang plaques with proverbs like, "Great virtue accommodates all things." In their offices, pretending to be cultured individuals, they participate in charity activities merely to promote their businesses. As a result, they become hypocritical philanthropists. This phenomenon is even more terrible as ordinary people cannot discern. 2. Shravaka practitioners seek individual liberation, obstructing the cultivation of great compassion. The primary goal of the Buddha's Shravaka disciples is liberation from the cycle of birth and death. Therefore, to overcome anger, they need to cultivate loving kindness and compassion. However, since they haven't cultivated bodhicitta, their compassion is limited. They only have a small degree of compassion, but lack great compassion. When benefiting sentient beings, they may not be very eager and proactive. They only help sentient beings according to circumstances because they lack aspiration. If they encounter someone in need, they will help them based on the situation. However, compared to the Shravakas of the past, Hinayana practitioners in the degenerate age lack sufficient merit. They don't even have minor compassion. They are very selfish, focused solely on their own liberation. They spend their days in sitting meditation, unconcerned with worldly matters, attached to meditative concentration and liberation. On the surface, they may appear diligent and experienced in their practice. During meditation, they meditate on the non-self nature of the 5 aggregates. However, in their daily lives, they are indifferent to others and lack compassion. In reality, such practice cannot lead to spiritual accomplishments. Instead, they may stray from the Buddhist path because their various afflictions, especially anger, remain unresolved. How many people in the Dharma-ending age can attain the first stage of awakening? Almost none. To practice the path to liberation, we need sufficient merit. To overcome various forms of anger and jealousy, we should reflect on the kindness of sentient beings, aspire to repay them, and cultivate boundless loving kindness. To deal with all kinds of attachment, we need to earnestly meditate on the 3 types of suffering and impermanence. In the degenerate age, a Shravaka practitioner without sufficient merit will be powerless in dealing with afflictions like greed, anger, ignorance, doubt, and arrogance. Beings in this era have intense afflictions of doubt and arrogance. Without cultivating compassion, it is impossible to overcome these afflictions. Even the non-Buddhists who practice the 4 dhyanas and 8 concentrations need to cultivate compassion and perform virtuous deeds, as these are meditative states in the form realm heavens. Even the beings in the desire realm heavens need to practice the 10 positive actions, not to mention those in the higher form realm heavens. Since non-Buddhists who practice the 4 dhyanas and 8 concentrations must practice the 10 positive actions, it goes without saying that those on the path to liberation should do the same. Some Shravaka practitioners in the Dharma-ending age are unaware of their spiritual level. They believe they can attain enlightenment by merely practicing the Buddha's 4 foundations of mindfulness. However, during their practice, they might stray from the authentic path. Moreover, some followers of the Pureland school solely think about seeking rebirth in the Pureland themselves but fail to accumulate sufficient merit. They believe that simply releasing animals is enough and rarely engage in other virtuous activities. At most, they may make some offerings to monastics or temples and give some donations. They haven't sincerely reflected on the kindness of sentient beings, aspire to repay them, or cultivated compassion. They lack compassion and are deeply entangled in afflictions and habitual tendencies. They are very selfish, with ingrained self-grasping. They spend their days reciting the Buddha's name or participating in the 3 sessions continuous chanting, waiting for death. With such a practice, it is unlikely that they will be reborn in the Pure Land. Of course, beginners should focus on study and practice and avoid challenging circumstances. In particular, we need to cultivate renunciation, compassion, bodhicitta, and the wisdom of emptiness, which guarantees us to follow the Mahayana path. Shravaka practitioners intend to attain personal liberation from samsara first, and then progress to Mahayana to benefit sentient beings. However, this approach takes a much longer route than directly following the Mahayana path. It can delay their progress by 10,000 kalpas. They think, I shall attain arhatship first before considering anything else. However, after attaining arhatship through this approach, it is hard for them to generate bodhicitta. Once they enter the Hinayana nirvana, they will remain there for 10,000 kalpas. This is because they haven't fully liberated themselves from the cycle of birth and death. While they have achieved liberation from discontinuous birth and death, they are still bound by transformative birth and death, as well as subtle ignorance. Therefore, their nirvana is not ultimate. The Buddha's nirvana is non-abiding. They can appear and build pure lands everywhere. The Buddhas don't abide in nirvana. They have transcended nirvana and samsara. When engaging in worldly activities, we should not only understand the what, but also the why behind them to be free from worries. Similarly, only after comprehending the Dharma can we practice it willingly. Without grasping the principles of Mahayana and cultivating compassion, one might switch to the Hinayana path to liberation. 3. Wicked individuals recklessly undermine others' compassionate activities. This obstacle refers to those who don't believe in karma and lack morality. They recklessly slander, oppress, or even forcefully undermine the altruistic activities of the virtuous. Moreover, we must be especially cautious in the Buddhist community, as there are also wicked individuals within who are hard to guard against. In the 7th volume of the Mahaparinirvana Sutra, the Buddha tells Kashyapa 700 years after my parinirvana, Mara Padman will gradually disrupt my authentic Dharma. Like a hunter wearing monastic robes, Mara will appear as a monk, nun, male or female lay practitioner, Sotapanna, or even as an Arhat and Buddha. This means Mara will disguise himself as an Arhat or even a Buddha. Mara is bound by defilements, but he pretends to be free from defilements, undermining my authentic Dharma. In the Buddha Treasury Sutra, the Buddha also said, Sariputra, while I am present in the world, the 3 jewels are unified. After my parinirvana, they will be divided into 5 parts. Shariputra, Mara is now hiding and aiding Devadatta in secretly undermining my Dharma and Sangha. Because I am here, Mara cannot cause significant harm. However, in the future he will appear as monastics and infiltrate the Sangha, preaching various false teachings and misleading numerous sentient beings. The 3rd obstacle is wicked individuals recklessly undermine others' compassionate activities. It is hard to guard against betrayers who are demons inside the Buddhist community. Some monastics consider themselves as practitioners. However, driven by jealousy, they tend to observe and publicize others' faults, such as spreading the flaws of other monastics or talking about others' problems. As a result, they unconsciously disrupt the harmony of the Sangha and cause lay devotees to lose faith in the three jewels. They become Mara's helpers without realizing it. Mara's helpers inside the Buddhist community are unaware of their predicament. They don't think, I am a demon here to harm you. Instead, they see themselves as practitioners. However, their thoughts and actions, such as harboring jealousy or spreading others' flaws, make them Mara's accomplices. It is terrible that they don't even realize that they are aiding the Mara. Of course, nobody would think of themselves as a demon. Even Mara might think I am a Buddha or I am a Bodhisattva. Nobody would regard themselves as a demon. Demons don't identify themselves as demons. They see themselves as Buddhas or Bodhisattvas. Therefore, examine your thoughts and actions and you will know. Do you have genuine compassion for sentient beings? What thoughts do you generate towards others? Reflect on your thoughts towards fellow practitioners, teachers, and other beings, and you will know whether you are influenced by Mara. In today's society, most people lack reverence for the Three Jewels teachers and the spiritual path. This is the current situation in China and cannot discern between authentic and false spiritual teachers. Those who wish to engage in Dharma practice cannot find qualified spiritual guides. They don't know what to do and end up practicing aimlessly. Therefore, we must be cautious. As practitioners, to guard against evil individuals, we should be careful and keep virtuous deeds confidential. When practicing the Dharma and benefiting sentient beings, we should be cautious in various aspects. As the ancients said, do not harbor malicious intentions towards others. Do not neglect precautions against them. We must guard against those with ill intentions or jealousy who may disrupt our Dharma practice and altruistic activities. However, we should still be compassionate to those who are wicked or don't understand us. Without compassion, wouldn't we become demons? Therefore, we should cultivate compassion and refrain from anger. Meanwhile, we should try to avoid such individuals and keep certain things confidential. We should not disclose our activities to those with ill intentions or let envious individuals know our whereabouts. In particular, if you plan to do something very virtuous, such as becoming a monastic, apart from the teachers and fellow practitioners who genuinely rejoice in you, you should not disclose it to anyone else. You can share it with those who sincerely rejoice in your plan, because the more they know, the better they can support you in accomplishing your aspirations. Don't reveal your decisions to those who envy you or don't share in your joy. If you do, you may face obstacles, as your karmic creditors from past and present lives could obstruct you, and you may not even know who they are. Around 2009, when I first arrived in Beijing, a layperson raised her hand after attending a few Dharma lectures, saying, I want to become a monastic. Before I could offer any advice, she expressed her wish to ordain. However, many people, including her Dharma friends, tried to obstruct her path. Her close Buddhist friends who feared losing a companion became her biggest obstacle, using every means to prevent her from ordaining. Moreover, her family also hindered her, and other monastics advised against her ordination, suggesting that being a layperson would be better. It is strange that they have become monastics themselves but tell others not to do so. So why did they choose to ordain? Perhaps they have many unspoken struggles and have nowhere to go if they disrobe. As a result, they tell others not to ordain. Such individuals are pitiful. They are uncomfortable with monastic life and thus discourage others from pursuing it. After staying away from those people for 7 or 8 years, she finally had the opportunity to ordain. It was a tricky case. In the Dharma-ending age, demons are rampant and pervasive. Those who don't understand us may not be demons but can be influenced by demons. Somehow, they come to disrupt us without even realizing what they are doing. We must be mentally prepared, as such situations are unavoidable. If someone slanders us or undermines our Dharma activities, we should accept it calmly. Such incidents may arise because we fail to maintain confidentiality, lack wisdom or skillful means, or are not cautious with our words, allowing our plans to reach the wrong ears. We often show excessive compassion. Therefore, please be vigilant. At this stage, we can only carry out our missions gradually. We should focus on helping those with good spiritual potential first. This is not due to a lack of compassion but a practical necessity, as our time and energy are limited. In a few years, as the situation gradually improves, we will be able to benefit more sentient beings. This is arranged by the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. In the current circumstances, we can only help those with better spiritual foundations and train them first. When you have learned and cultivated well, you can help more people.